Same. Guess what? It comes down to the special teams against the New Jersey Devils once again. The power play gets shredded, and the Minnesota Wild's comeback late is all for naught. We recap all the action on tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. Let's get started.
You are Locked On Wild postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. The Minnesota Wilds lose again, 5-3 to the New Jersey Devils. And before we get started, I want to read you a collection of incredibly troubling things that Michael Russo put together as to how the Wild have done over their last several games. They've lost 4 straight, 0-3-1 in that span. 6th of their last 7 games. They're 1-4-2 in that span. They're 2-4-2 against the East. The Wild have given up an embarrassing 12 power play goals on 33 chances, 5 in 2 games against the Devils. The Wild have trailed in a league-high 309 minutes, 49 seconds. It's a disaster. You can't, again, start a game late. And Dean Evison talked about this after the game, in that the game doesn't start at 7:30, doesn't start at 7:35. It starts at 7 o'clock. You can't cough the puck up right away. You can't just be lifeless to the puck. I'm going to be honest, I didn't have a chance to watch a ton of this game due to some day job responsibilities. But again, followed closely enough to know what was going on. And the first goal allowed, a Devils player slides right into the slot untouched. 4 Wild players just standing right around the net. And you bury one past Gustafsson again. Glove high. And the Devils score. They score 2 more goals. You fall behind 2-0 and then 3-0 into the second period. The Wild did attempt a comeback, but you can't spot a team 3 goals and expect to have even a remote chance of being able to complete a comeback. It's not possible. And you see the comments after the games, Ryan Hartman saying that the team needs to pick it up. They need to stop playing like crap. They need to get their S together, is I think the actual quote that he used. Kirill Kaprizov throwing a ton of blame on himself for another very slow start for him, where he just is inexplicably coughing up the puck. And so I can point to all of that and scream my lungs out at all of these things that continue to happen. But I want to focus in on something that needs to become the rallying cry for this team. We heard it after the game, Kevin Gorg talking with Marco Rossi after the game. And Rossi, when asked about what has been working for him in what has been a good start to the season, said the following. He said, I come in here and I just try to do my best. I'll repeat that. I come in here and I just try to do my best. You know what the best part about that is it's a very easy barometer to determine how a team is performing, whether you are playing well or not playing well. If you give your best effort, it's very easy to tell. If you end up coming up short and you gave your best effort, then that's just the other team is better. But if you're not, it's very easy to tell. And I hope that the rest of the team takes that message to heart, because you shouldn't have a player that is one of your youngest players on roster having that be the rally cry for the team. Like, let's hear that from some of the other players on the team. We hear the kind of the going through the motions. But Marco Rossi sums it up perfectly, is if players come in here, they give full effort. Then if you win a game, you feel great about it. If you lose, you know you put everything that you had out on the ice and still came up short. It just wasn't your day. That's fine. It happens. It's a long season. You're not going to win every game that you play. But you can't expect to win games when you spot teams 3 goals right off the bat. You can't expect to be able to work the miraculous comeback every time. The empty net magic from 2 years ago is completely gone. It is completely gone. You can't expect to go back to that well. You have to start games on time if you expect to come up with wins, especially against teams like the New Jersey Devils. And I'll give you a real hint about what's coming up on Saturday. The New York Rangers are a fantastic team in every aspect of the game. They're good offensively. They're amazing defensively. They have the second best power play in the league, just behind the New Jersey Devils. And the reason the Devils' power play is as propped up as it is because they keep playing the Wild. Second best power play in the league. Great goaltending. Star players are playing well. You're getting good return from their new head coach. And if this doesn't improve, that East Coast trip could be an offer. I'm not kidding. It could be an offer for this team. And that's a 10-game span against the likes of the Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils, the Sabres as well. You can't just show up. You have to start games with energy, start them with poise, stop committing atrocious penalties, figure out a way to get your special teams back on track. At this point, it's going to have to involve personnel changes because it just continues to be not even remotely capable of stopping the other team from getting pucks on net. Not even remotely capable of doing that. And so you have to make some changes, and the effort just has to be leagues better for this team. And so I've tried to hold off on being frustrated, especially with Matt Boldy coming back in this game tonight. I've tried to hold off the frustration, but every game it's the same thing. Every game it's a slow start. It's some level of power play disaster or penalty kill disaster. Special teams caving in. Defense giving up too easy of goals. Goaltenders not being able to make saves. At some point, you just are what you are. And we're 10 games in now. At some point, you just are what you are. And as far as what is going to happen to turn this around, it's on this group. It's on this collection of players to make the changes. You have room to call maybe one prospect up at a time. You've got most of this group locked in for multiple seasons. It's on this group to make the changes and get this thing back on track because, good Lord, you may as well even just not show up on the ice until the second period, and you'd probably be in better shape than they have been over these last 10 games. It's maddening to see this continue to happen over and over and over and over and over again. And so let's go back because, again, fantastic quote from Marco Rossi. That's bulletin board material, hopefully for the rest of the team for the rest of the season. I just come in here every day and try to do my best. Well, it's showing for Rossi, at least. Another goal tonight, and now he gets rewarded for his play with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy on his line. We'll talk about some of the tweaks that we saw to the lineup, and we'll pick up the pieces. It's like somebody spilled a bowl of M&Ms in here. We'll try to pick up the pieces after yet another of the same. It's like I'm painting the same picture every night. We'll talk about all that and more as we continue tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. We'll hear your comments as well. So if you want to leave us a comment as to your thoughts on this game, Thoughts on the new line combinations, thoughts on Marco Rossi, thoughts on anything. Let me know. Put them in the comments, and we'll get to them as we continue tonight's postcast. But more to come. After the Minnesota Wild lose 5-3, Locked On Wild postcast continues after this. Tonight's Locked On Wild postcast is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. If you took the New Jersey Devils to win tonight, then you got your win with your $5 bet. And if you bet on players such as Jesper Bratt, Kirill Kaprizov, Marco Rossi with your bonus bets, you're feeling pretty good about how things went here this evening. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. Again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Today's Locked On Wild postcast is also brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Indeed, candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who see it in search, according to U.S. Indeed data. And in the amount of time I've been talking about Indeed, 16 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Again, go to Indeed.com/lockedon. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Minnesota Wild fall again, 5-3 to the New Jersey Devils. 4 straight losses, 6 out of 7, and it just continues to be concerning all around. And again, I'm sorry that I've pushed a lot of people back on from off the ledge, because this just continues to happen every single game. And I'm getting tired of it. So let's get to some of the comments here tonight. Feel free to fire them in, because as we do so, I'm going to talk about some of the things we saw from the new lineup here tonight. So I'll get to comments as they come in. I'll start with Grant. Do you think Spurgeon's return will be able to turn this slump around? I've got to be honest. I don't know if Spurgeon is going to be able to fix everything that ails this team. I know Alex and I talked about this on Monday, and I've been trying to walk this fine line between it's early in the season. Let's just wait and see when everybody comes back. But again, it's the same thing that's happening on a nightly basis. Now, what I think hopefully will help, I'm hoping that we have undervalued the way that Jared Spurgeon keeps things tidy while he is with the team. I'm hoping that he can help in just some accountability in all of these just careless mistakes that end up happening, and these penalties that are just beyond unnecessary by reaching to try to stick with players that blow past you. So I'm hoping that Spurgeon can help tighten things up in that regard, but short of removing John Merrill from the equation, which just continues to not be something that is, I think, even remotely on the list. I don't know why, but short of that, I don't know. I don't know what is going to help because, again, it doesn't matter who's out there on the penalty kill either. It just seems like it's an automatic goal for the opponent. So that's a problem. That's a concern. Let's dive into these line combinations because we did see Dean Evason full blender the lines. You had the fourth line combination of Lettieri, Dewar, and Duhaime still. Third line combination was Maroon, Hartman, and Foligno. Second line was Johansson, Eriksson, Ek, and Zuccarello. And top line was Kaprizov, Rossi, and Boldy. Top line looked good down the stretch after everything that happens at the start of the game. So that's encouraging. Matt Zuccarello also looked good after he was demoted to the second line. I'm not shocked that everybody seemed to react to that type of a blender move. But again, Dean Evason with the good point after the game. It shouldn't take something like this to get everybody to all of a sudden have a pulse. You should just have one. And so while it's great that we saw these changes, Dean is right on the money. Now, I would have liked to have seen something a little earlier in the season just to try to jog things, but at some point it shifts from the coaches putting players in, and I'm going to be very careful with what I'm about to say because I know how the comment section feels about Dean Evason. I'm going to be very careful here. I hope everybody understands what I'm saying here. At some point it shifts from coaches to players. And if you are just continually not showing up at the start of games, what is a coach supposed to do about that? Dean Evason's not blameless. He is far from blameless in this start so far. But you only have a set roster. And if nobody in that group shows up to start a game, there's really nothing you can do to get out of it. Let's go continuing the line combinations discussion. It would be nice to change some bodies around. I don't think that's possible with the building of this club. Do you think juggling lines will ultimately solve this team's problems? Probably not. Honestly, I want to see more of Kaprizov, Rossi, and Boldy because we're getting exactly what we have been asking for the last several games. Is Rossi with skill players able to set them up with good opportunities? Matt Zuccarello is more than capable of playing with Joel Eriksson Ek and Marcus Johansson. Those two lines looked good. And you've got now a third line that can focus on being physical and not having to try to prop up whichever of the first or second lines aren't doing anything. It seems like a more effective combination of the top six than what we've seen over the last few games. So I want to see it continue. I'd like to see it against the New York Rangers. I'm going to be furious if we see things just go back to what they were. I want to see it continue. I want to see a little more of it other than just a taste because what good is a taste? You're still hungry when all is said and done. Looking at some other things here, CG, Addison's penalty really derailed the comeback. Can we trade him and Merrill for some pucks? See, I'm on the train that I think a lot of the issues that everybody has had defensively are because they're partners with John Merrill. I think Kalen Addison has looked fine without him. So at some point, you just have to point the finger back at the guy that's creating all the problems. And we continue to do that. It's John Merrill. It's John Merrill. It's John Merrill. It's John Merrill. I think Kalen Addison with somebody else as a partner on that third pair, I think would be fine. So maybe we see Dakota Mermis get an opportunity once Jared Spurgeon is back. I'd be fine giving that a shot. I think it's more of a John Merrill problem than it is a Kalen Addison problem. Penalty aside, I think it's more an issue with Merrill than it is with Addison. Gary giving us some optimism here. Thank you, Gary. not as down as I am. Saw some positives, especially Rossi, Kaprizov, and Boldy. Yeah, let's build off of that and just go give it hell against the New York Rangers. Denny here. Denny, thank you for joining as always. Middleton and Mermis do not mix. Yeah, again, Dakota Mermis, I will give him a ton of credit for being thrown into a difficult spot, but he is an AHL guy. And so if he ends up being better than John Merrill, I would be willing to see him given that opportunity on a third pairing, because when we are hoping that Jake Middleton will come back to form when Jared Spurgeon returns. But if you just continue to trot John Merrill out there, it's like a cornerback. It's like post-injury Xavier Rhodes for the Minnesota Vikings as your number one cover corner when he can't cover anybody. And so teams just continue to throw at him, and you wonder why things are going bad. Like you've got to make a change in that third pairing. That third pairing has been it. I would be better out there. Like, think about that. I would be better out there on the third pairing than what we've seen. Denny just spitting fire here today. Been calling Rossi, Kaprizov from the start of the season speed kills. See, and this is the other thing too, is you look at that boost that the line changes gave. Wild had the Devils on their heels, and then they committed stupid penalties down the stretch. The Boldy penalty, I forget which comment it was. I saw somebody say the Boldy penalty was basically just trying kind of as a last-ditch effort to stop a potential breakaway the other way. But the other two, yeah, that's not great. Urban, I like Rossi, Boldy, Kirill, but who else is going to score? That's where your second line comes in. And I thought they had some good looks with Zuccarello. I did. And so maybe that's a combination that can get hot too. Honestly, I would be fine with just having one line at this point that is consistently scoring than a bunch of lines that aren't. So I think we're all in agreement here. I think we need to see this on Saturday to see if it is something that's sustainable, because Hartman, Kaprizov, Zuccarello was great 2 seasons ago. Really not until the end of the season last year. And now it hasn't worked this year. So let's go Boldy, Rossi, Kaprizov. But more importantly, again, I'm going to say this. I'll probably end up repeating this for a good portion of the rest of this month, probably the rest of the season. Just follow Marco Rossi's lead. I come in every day and just try to do my best. That I double taked when I heard that, because it's something that is just so taken for granted. But I mean, look at what he's done out there. It's hard to deny what Marco Rossi has done to start the season. And it's because he comes in and he plays hard and he gives full effort. If he doesn't end up winning a game, he knows he gave full effort. If he does, he feels great about it. Denny suggesting I would put Middleton, Faber, Brodin, Addison, and Mermis with anybody but Merrill. I would agree here. I think until Spurgeon comes back, I think those D pairs need to be shuffled a little bit. I know they like having Faber and Brodin together as kind of that top pairing, but it's too thin. It's too thin, the rest of the lineup. So you got to split those guys up, and you got to press box John Merrill. Get Damon Hunt in there. What is the point of bringing him with and having him on the roster if he's not going to play? You got to do it. You have to. I am begging to give Damon Hunt an opportunity. You have to do it. So I would like to see those combos, Denny. You're definitely on the right track there. We'll see if we get them on Saturday against the Rangers. Shark Boy Ben. Kirill just doesn't look the same. Too much pressure on himself, not smiling as much. He needs to be a lot better, but he can't win games by himself. And I hadn't considered it before tonight. I don't want to hop on the back of everybody that has thrown this take out there, but I do think that there has been some additional pressure from Kirill being the alternate captain that I don't think he anticipated would come with having that attached to what he's doing. And I mean, to Kirill's credit, he's been fully accountable for his performances so far this season, but you've got to take things a step from accountability to production on the ice. Hopefully his power play goal was a step in the right direction tonight, but early on, that was something. What he was doing out there, losing his balance, turning the puck over. He's got to, honestly, if he followed the Marco Rossi advice, I think his performance would hit a much bigger note here this season. Jeremy asking, would there be maybe an argument to bring Jesper up for 1 or 2 games just to see if maybe him in net changes how the team plays? I like the thought of, again, just trying to change things up. But honestly, until we can be sure that this defense has turned the corner, I don't think there is any good that could come from bringing Jesper up here to play behind this mess. Because you as a young goalie are going to take any goal that you give up as your fault. And that is it's too much pressure to put on a guy who you are just seeing if he's got something. That's because that's just how goalies operate. He's going to take it that every goal that is allowed is his fault. And so I don't want Jesper within any closer to here than Iowa until this defense either gets fixed or the personnel are changed up to turn this around, because I think you could do much more harm than good from Wallstead if he's brought up here at this point in the season. So just let him continue to cook down in Iowa and just figure out that defense before they do anything in that regard. Denny, Hartman is too slow to be effective on the first line, always chasing. Common theme with this team. I like the fact that we have now seen Hartman go to more of a third line, a defensive, physical type role, because, I mean, yes, he can score, but I mean, the difference between what Marco Rossi does from an offensive standpoint it's noticeable. So I think until further notice, that's got to be your top line combo, because that line just had a jolt when they were put together. They were generating opportunities, playing with some buzz, some spark, some life. Got to continue to see that. And if it ends up that was just kind of a flash in the pan thing, okay, but just see if it is. Make sure that it isn't something that you could build off of that would turn into, a catalyst for the rest of this season. You're never going to know if you just go back to what was comfortable. I think comfortability is a problem with this unit right now, is since everybody's locked in long term, urgency comes later because, well, this whole group's going to be here, and so we'll figure it out at some point. So new line combos. Let's see how they do against New York Rangers. We got a fun preview of the Rangers game coming up for you tomorrow with my guy Johnny Lazarus. He tried to derail the show early on, and it nearly worked, but talking about some of the things that make that Rangers team so good. So I encourage everybody to tune into that first thing in the morning. And we'll have coverage for you. Won't be at the X again, unfortunately. Just finishing up with high school playoffs down here as part of my day job. Finishing up with that, but should be pretty much done with that by the time the Wild go back to the X on the 12th against the Stars. So we'll get back there and we'll try to get this thing back on track. But thank you to everybody who hopped in for comments here tonight. Denny, Dustin, Tracy, Jeremy, Urban, Shark Boy Ben, everybody who hopped into the comments here tonight. Gary, Michael, CG, Grant. Thanks for making this an electric and an active comment section on these Locked On Wild postcasts. Really appreciate everybody hopping in and sharing their thoughts. We'll continue to do these after games, and once my schedule gets back down to normal, we will do some Wednesday night hangouts as well, trying to up the interactivity of the channel here, because again, we do this for you guys. We do this for the fans. It's just something that we love to give all the content we can, and it's all for everybody that tunes in each and every day of the week. Final question, final. Should we have had all the contract extensions before we saw how this group played? I personally, you know what, Jeremy? I don't mean to leave you hanging, but this is worthy of a full episode, I think, because honestly, what would have been the harm of waiting till after the season was done to make these combos? What would have been wrong with that? To wait until after the season was done for these contracts. But I'm going to do a full episode on that coming up because Wild will be heading to Sweden soon, so we'll have another full week off before the weekend game. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in to today's Locked On Wild postcast. One of the best comment sections in the Locked On Podcast Network. I stand by that. So thank you everybody for making this as fun as it is, even though the results not quite there as of yet. But make sure that you follow along for all the Locked On Wild content you can by subscribing to Locked On Wild everywhere you listen to your podcasts. We'll be back with you tomorrow with a new episode as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.